And we are live. Buon pomeriggio ragazzi. Buon pomeriggio. Un attimo che spamma un po' questo stream un po' dappertutto. Ah, Discord. Spamma un po'. Buonasera, buon pomeriggio anche a lei, King K. Rool con una pistola. Ah, anche a te, Cork. Retrocompatibilità. Allora, io lo spero perché eh, voglio prendermi Persona 5S, però non sulla Switch. Cioè, ho provato a la demo, no. Cioè, non solo 30 fps, ma la qualità è orribile. Che è successo qui? Niente, si è bloccata la musica e va bene. Già che stiamo. Non sarà retrocompatibile. Boh, io ho sentito il contrario. Perfino coi giochi della PS1. Chissà, chissà. Comunque, nel frattempo che aspettiamo, farò l'unico gioco eh, per PlayStation che posso farvi vedere al momento. E la cosa più bella è che lo giocherò su Switch, ovvero, un attimo, Ctrl Nitro Fueled. Guardate che bello il mio English. E voilà. Da dove giocato Rayman 3 su PC all'inizio.
Scaldate i motori per una produzione. Allacciate le cinture per un'altra creazione di...
Anche questo gioco è stato un po' una mezza fregatura, perché gira veramente male su Switch. Soprattutto nell'online, quando c'è tanta gente, scende abbastanza di frame. Però CTR non l'avevo mai giocato all'epoca. E qui tolgo così. Ok. Ok, vediamo che sta nel negozio. Perfino nel negozio lagga. Per farvi capire. Eh, non devo spiegarvi cos'è Crash, vero? Ehm... No, non c'è niente. Buttiamoci subito nell'online. Come la trovo la live di PS5? Vabbè, mando direttamente il link nella chat. Guardate che bellina, eh. Che bel, che bella associazione di colori. E sono daltonico, quindi bravo a me stesso. A me non sono mai piaciuti i giochi di Rayman, sinceramente. Bene, sparisci dalla mia vista. Adesso. Eh, non ti conviene dirlo in mia presenza, ma ok. Sto scherzando. In realtà no, però. E dipende, quali giochi hai giocato? Michele S. Rip italiano? Ah, quello. L'unico Crash che mi ha deluso è quello di Skylanders. Non lo so. Allora, io non ho mai avuto la PS1, quindi giochi di Crash non li ho mai fatti. E solo con la Switch ho iniziato. Ah, e comunque io sono abbastanza nintendaro, però lo ammetto, CTR molto, molto, molto meglio di Mario Kart. Su qualsiasi aspetto. No, bugia no. Sull'online no. Molto meglio Mario Kart. Però tutto il resto, Crash. Ma sto stronzo. Guardate questo trick. Mi è venuto malissimo, però. Mi sa che... Eh sì. Uff. E neanche a me piace. È molto più tattico CTR. Sembra quasi la versione... Ah, sono... È il primo quello. Sembra quasi la versione competitiva di Mario Kart. Si è fermato. E di come lo prendo. L'ho mancato. Ditemi se riuscite a sentirmi. O se devo abbassare un po' il volume. Che sbaglio lì. Ora vi faccio vedere meglio quel trick di prima. Non avete visto niente. Terzo, minchia. Caduto. Ok, si sente. E anche la qualità dello stream, com'è? Perché ho cambiato un po' le impostazioni. Quindi non so come si veda adesso. Mamma mia. Ecco, un altro lato negativo di aver preso questo gioco su Switch è che ci sono pochissimi ehm, giocatori online bravi E tutti gli altri sono scarsi, ma veramente troppo scarsi. Cos'era? Cos'era? Ah, dovete anche capire che questo gioco è famosissimo per i muri invisibili. Cioè, forse è il... Cioè, voi immaginate un gioco di carte con i muri invisibili. Cioè, non è la cazzata più grossa. Perché mai dovresti mettere un muro invisibile in un kart, in un gioco di carte? Ti consiglio di alzare il volume. Non si, non si sente poco. Il volume di che? Del gioco o della mia voce? E lì mi sa che avrei preso il laser lì. Anche ora ho preso. No, mancato. Cosa devo alzare? Allora, fammi leggere. Sei l'uomo italiano più sexy di sempre. E beh, la ringrazio. Ehm, allora, è logico che se te li giochi su emulatore. Allora, il fatto è che non si può dire i primi giochi di Rayman e i nuovi giochi di Rayman, perché sono tutti essenzialmente diversi. Tutti. Cioè, il primo era un platform 2D graficamente molto carino, ma anche adesso non è invecchiato per nulla, secondo me. La grafica pixelata ci sta anche. Il 2 e il primo in 3D. E vabbè, lì si vede qualche pecca, ma perché giustamente la grafica si è evoluta. Il terzo, lo stesso motivo. Solo Origins e Legends sono simili. Murphy, la rana è Murphy. Sì, ci vediamo in Rayman 4. Vabbè. Ma parlando di PS5, mi sa che oggi non fanno vedere i giochi, ma solo l'hardware. Il che è un po' strano, però. Cioè, qualche gioco lo devono far vedere. Già alle 3 dell'anno scorso hanno fatto vedere qualcosina. Cork dice... "Mm, fanno come la PS4 che non fanno vedere neanche il design. No, vabbè. No, vabbè, penso di no. Cioè, non credo che facciano vedere le componenti singole. E poi, no, vabbè, ci vediamo tra 6 mesi. Ci vediamo direttamente a Natale. Sugli scaffali del GameStop. Ah, bella sta pista. Chissà se riesco a farla tutta con le fiamme blu.
Un pensierino per te.
Eh, non fate gli stronzi. Ok. Quello è esploso così a caso.
Non mi piace!
Madonna. E questa è persa. No, no, ok.
Togliti dalla corsia di sorpasso.
Cioè, guardate che velocità. Voi sta velocità ve la immaginate solo su Mario Kart. Cioè, guardate quanto è figo. Quanto cazzo è veloce. Ve lo sognate? Bastardo. Su Mario Kart. Ok. Non vedo il primo. Vabbè, basta. È lontanissimo. Perché ho perso le fiamme blu? Dai, perché? È caduto. Ho visto il primo che si è inceppato. Ma non ce la farò comunque. Chi è? Ho visto qualcosa. Secondo, dai. Allora, invece voi che cosa vi aspettate dalla PS5? Dalla PlayStation 5? No, Francesco, non si può uscire. No, sta il Corona in borghese. Scaricare i giochi da PS4 anche su 5. E vedi. Ah, ok. Boh, io spero si possano mettere proprio i dischi. Perché non penso che metteranno già i giochi PS4 nello store della 5. La rivelano alle 5, tra 20 minuti. Sì, alle 17. Per fare i precisini. Ah, sta pista bellissima. È l'equivalente della pista arcobaleno. Però peggio.
Togliti dalla corsia di sorpasso.
Cosa succede? Che succede? Chi se si è preso? Bella sta curva. No, non mi colpire. Vai al diavolo. Non mi colpire. Bravo. Ok. Ora devo fare attenzione rispetto ai limiti. Qui non ci sono limiti. Eh, che curva. Ve le sognate ste robe su Mario Kart? Quello è il primo? Yes. No, il controller non gira. Stupida. Stupida Nintendo che vendi le robe a 70 euro e non ti funzionano. Vieni qui. Non gira, porca miseria, stupido controller. Ah, scemo tu che lo compri e devo giocare con i Joy-Con. Bastardo. Comprati il Pro. È il Pro che ho in mano adesso. E non funziona. Ogni tanto non gira. E non perché è scarico. È proprio... non funziona a volte. Come l'ho evitata? Ultra istinto. Non cadere. No. Dai, no, è già arrivato quello. Però... oh, yes. Allora, leggiamo la chat. Il pro è solo per i pro, ma io sono un pro. Ho soffiato, non funziona. Allora sono le mani, sì, probabilmente. Mi ghettino spaghetti. Haha. Sono sano, non vi preoccupate. Allora, vi faccio vedere il personaggio più carino, più cute. Se carica. Oh, guardate che carino. Lo voglio nel mio letto. Mettiamo un colore che gli si addice. Eccolo. Con le stelline. No. Eh, no. Volevo cambiare. No, non è gay. Assolutamente no. Vi rimando il link del reveal della PS5 se non ce l'avete. Sì che ci gioco ancora a Smash. Cioè, no, bugia, che cavolo sto dicendo? No, non ci gioco più a Smash. Perché non riesco a portare più nessuno in Elite. Allora, anche la voce è carina. Allora mi incazzo e dico no, fanculo. Mi ha quasi preso, però no, ho mancato la scatola di mele. Eh, sta ancora qui. Però dai, almeno l'ho trovato uno decente. Ma stronzo. Ma perché hanno lo stesso personaggio? Cos'è sta roba e perché non mi ha colpito? No, ho perso il turbo. No, sbagliato. E dai. Strunz. Dai, almeno terzo. Oh yes. Wow. Era una citazione a Waluigi? Sì, dai, Waluigi su Smash. Please Nintendo. Tanto sicuramente ci sono almeno due personaggi Nintendo nel secondo pass. Cosa ne pensi di Sora su Smash? Non penso niente, non lo conosco. Cioè, non ho mai giocato un Kingdom Hearts. Come vi ho detto, non ho mai avuto una console Sony. Allora, oh, ora sì. Qualcosa di fluo. L'avevo trovato prima. Ok, ok. Te l'hai. E dai. Altri PG di Fire Emblem? No, non penso proprio. Anche perché non ci sono giochi da cui prenderli. Cioè, o meglio, ci sono, ma non ci sono giochi nuovi. Intendevo. Sì, sono in quarantena anche io. Sono in Italia. Cioè, no, bugia, cazzo dico. Siamo tutti in quarantena in pratica. Ma sì, ma tutti si sparerebbero se mettessero un altro di Fire Emblem. Bello che rispondi in italiano ad una domanda inglese. Voglio dire, hai visto questo canale? Ti sembra inglese?
Il trofeo è mio! Nostro!
No, mamma mia. Che succede? Oh sì. Ok. Ora sì che ci siamo. Esatto. Grande. Io sono un uomo grande, forte, muscoloso. Mao, mamma mia. Ok. Personalmente farei il culo a Sakurai. Non leggo, devo giocare. Perché non fixa Falcon? Dai, che il prossimo personaggio sarà il cattivo di F-Zero. No, vabbè. Come, come potevo evitarli? E uno ha quittato. Ma non è vero, non l'ho preso, ma che hitbox. Ma siamo in due? No.
Insieme siamo più forti.
Sarebbe bello se mettessero Raiden di Metal Gear. Sì. Cioè, abbiamo già un po' di rappresentazione da Metal Gear. Secondo me vogliono mettere ogni personaggio di una serie diversa. Vabbè, io direi che può bastare. Mancano 5 minuti. Ok, rimetto un po' di musica. Invece che aggiungere un PGOP a aggiustare il gioco, ma sai com'è? È nato broken sto gioco. Lo so, tante cose non hanno senso. Tutti i PG sono OP. Il problema è che, cioè, alcuni per essere OP richiedono un livello di skill, tipo gli Ice Climbers. Cioè, o sei un dio, o, o non li sai usare. Chissà la chat qui che dice. Mi sa che... sì, voi vedete così. Vabbè, per buon auspicio. Scriviamolo giusto così. A me che è il peggiore per la recovery, ma i mech aggressivi fanno paura. Fanno veramente paura. Cioè, non puoi fare veramente niente contro i mech aggressivi. Però è vero, il fatto che il side B non si resetta dopo essere stati colpiti è una stronzata assurda. Giocate Xenoblade 2. Vabbè, gli attacchi aerei non servono a mech, servono solo per trollare. Sì, sì, sicuramente mech è stato fatto per picchiare per terra, a terra. Ma Ness, perché non bannano quel bambino di merda? Cioè, almeno che riducessero la potenza dello smash, cioè la potenza di lancio della presa. È stupida. Non può uccidere al 100 dall'altra parte dello stage. È stupido. Più stupido di Arsene. E ce ne vuole. Ok, dovrebbe iniziare tra poco. Ciao Ridvan. Ah, ok, è iniziato. Ok. Ah, i soliti 2 minuti. Quanto è brutta sta canzone, mamma mia. Dai, prezzo. Allora, se lo fanno, se lo rivelano, 500 secondo me. Tra 4,50 e 500. Non possono lanciarla come la PS3, tipo a 600 dollari. Secondo me 500. Ah sì, PC Master Race però. Dipende tutto dalle esclusive. Che probabilmente in questo video non vedremo perché... No, 900 no. Cioè, chi se la compra? Devono avere dei giochi, cioè, non solo esclusivi, ma devono essere fatti da Dio per costare 900 euro. No, è impossibile. Ci siamo. Vediamo un po'.
Hi. Unfortunately, we had to cancel the talk that we had
Ma
on
no!
GDC. But we do have some super exciting news about PS5, and who better to bring that to you than the one and only Mark Cerny. Without further ado, over to you, Mark.
Thank you, Jim.
Ma come?
There will be lots of chances later on this year to look at the PlayStation 5 games. Today, I want to
Ho
talk a
alzato un
bit
po', va
about
bene
the
così.
goals for the PlayStation 5 hardware and how they influenced the development of the console. I think you all know I'm a big believer in console generations. Once every 5 or 6 or 7 years, a console arrives with substantially new capabilities. There's a lot of learning by the game
Manca la
developers,
4.
hopefully not too overwhelming, and soon there's games that could never have been created before.
Ho alzato un
Now,
altro
it
po'.
used to be that as a console designer, you'd somehow intuit what would be the best set of capabilities for the new console, and then build it in complete secrecy. For the PlayStation consoles, that period lasted through PlayStation 3, a powerful and groundbreaking console, but also one that caused quite a lot of heartache, as it was initially difficult to develop games for. So,
Sì,
starting
lo
with PlayStation
abbassano.
4, we've taken a different approach, roughly centered around 3 principles. The first of these is listening to the developers, which is to say that a lot of what we put into a console derives directly from the needs and
La
aspirations
PS5 e
of the
la
game
4.
creators. We definitely do have some ideas of our own, but at the core of our philosophy for designing
Sembrano finte
consoles
queste
is
ombre
that game
davanti.
players are here for the fantastic games, which is to say that game creators matter. Anything we can do to make life easier for the game creators or help them realize their dreams, we will do. So, about once every 2 years, I take a tour of the industry. I go to the various developers and publishers, sit down, and discuss how they're doing with the current consoles and what they'd like to see in future consoles. This requires weeks on the road, as reaching the bulk of the game creators involves
Ok, ma
talking to
magari
well
vai al
over 100
punto.
people at something like 2
Ma hanno
dozen
detto una cosa
publishers and
all'inizio, siamo
developers.
costretti a
And it is
cancellare e poi
incredibly valuable.
non ho capito. Ci
By
parlavo
the way,
sopra e
the
non ho
feature
sentito.
most requested by the developers, that was an SSD, which we were very happy to put in the hardware, but a lot of problem solving was required. I'll be doing a deep dive on the SSD and surrounding systems later on in this talk. It's also key to make a generational leap while keeping the console sufficiently familiar to game developers. I think about this in terms of balancing evolution and revolution. Now, with PlayStation 1, 2,
poi
and
perché
3,
ha
the
quel
target was a
sorriso
revolution each
stranissimo?
time with a brand new feature set. That was great in many ways, but time for the developers to get up and running got
È un
longer with
PC
each
come
console.
l'Xbox.
In the past, I've called this time to triangle. Here's what I had for those 3 consoles. To be clear, I'm not talking about time to make a game. Developers will be ambitious, and it may take them 6 years or so to realize their vision. What I'm talking about is that dead time before graphics and other aspects of game development are up and running, and trying to minimize that. On the other hand, if we're trying to reduce that dead time to 0, that means the hardware architecture can't change at all. We're handcuffed. We need to judge for each feature what value it adds and whether it's worth the increase in developer time needed to support it. So with PlayStation 4, we were able to strike a pretty good balance between performance and familiarity.
Adesso con la
We got
PS5
required
sarà
learning back
una
to
settimana.
PlayStation 1 levels. With PS5, the GPU was definitely the area we felt the most tension between adding new features and keeping a familiar programming model. Ultimately, I think we've ended up with something under a month
Sì, facci
of getting up
vedere
to
questo
speed. That feels
aspirapolvere,
like we're
dai.
striking about the right balance. I'll go into a bit more detail later today about our philosophy with the GPU and the specific
Filosofia
feature
con la
set that
GPU,
resulted from it.
attenzione. Platone,
It's
levati.
also very important for us, as
Spostati.
the hardware team, to find new dreams, by which I mean something other than
Ma
CPU
sono finte
performance,
queste
GPU
ombre,
performance,
dai.
and the amount of RAM. The increase in graphics performance over the past 2 decades has been astonishing, but there are other areas in which we can innovate and provide significant value to the game creators, and through them, the players. That's why the SSD was very much on our list of directions to explore, regardless of what came out
Basta
of
che
the
non
conversations
fanno
with game
tipo
developers and
Stadia.
publishers.
Vabbè.
The biggest feature in this category
No,
is
vabbè,
the
non
custom
penso.
engine for
Cioè, hanno
audio.
visto
That's
che
today's
cazzata che è
final
stata la
topic.
Stadia.
The push for vastly improved audio, and in particular 3D
Sì, ma chi
audio,
se ne fotte
isn't something that
dell'audio?
came out of the developer meetings. It's
Ok, ho detto
much
una
more the case
puttanata,
that we
però.
had a dream of what might be possible 5 years from now, and then worked out a number of steps we could take to set us on that path. So here again are the three principles, the first being enabling the desires of developers to drive the hardware design. To me, the SSD really is the key to the next generation. It's a game changer.
Sì,
And
l'SSD
it
è
was
stato
the number
inventato
one
sai
ask from
quanti anni
developers for
fa.
PlayStation 5. As in, we know it's probably impossible, but can you put an SSD in it? That was a discussion we were also having internally. It was clear that the presence of a hard drive in every PlayStation 4 was having a
Sì, mi sa
positive
che
impact.
è
A
proprio un
lot of things
PC
that would
tipo un
simply have been
Xbox.
impossible at Blu-ray disc speeds were now possible. At the same time,
Questo
though,
è
in
Internet
2015 and
Explorer.
2016, when we were having these conversations, developers were already banging up against the limits of
Questa
the hard
sarà,
drive.
this will be
And
the
a lot of
graphics in
developers' time was
2009.
being spent designing around slow load speeds. I want to focus in on just one number here, which is how long it takes to load a gigabyte of data from a hard drive. The difficulty being that hard drives are neither particularly fast nor flexible. If all your data is in one block, which is frankly not very likely, you can load 50 to 100 megabytes a second, depending on where the data is located on the hard drive.
Ovviamente
Let's
nella
assume
chat
it's on
la
the
gente
outer
che
edge, which means
spamma Z
loading a
e
gigabyte takes 10
faccine
seconds.
che
If you
dormono.
compress your game packages, you can fit more data on the Blu-ray disc and also effectively boost your hard drive read speed by
Wow,
compression ratio.
progresso.
We support zlib decompression on PlayStation 4 that gets you something like 50% more data on the disk and 50% higher effective read speed. Unfortunately, though, it's highly likely that your data is scattered around in various files on the hard drive, as well as sourced from multiple locations within those files. So lots of seeks are needed at 2 to 50-ish milliseconds each. My rule of thumb is that the hard drive is spending 2/3 of its time seeking and only 1/3 of its time actually loading data. Putting all of that together,
Non si
a
poteva già
gigabyte is
mettere un
very
SSD
roughly
sulla
20
4,
seconds
boh.
to load from a hard drive. Now, a gigabyte is not much data. Games are using 5 or 6 gigabytes of RAM on PlayStation 4, so boot times and
La
load
nuova
times can get
PS5
pretty
ha una
long.
memoria
Or to put
di
that differently,
8
as a
milioni
player,
di
you wait for the game
gigabyte.
to boot, wait for the game to load,
Così potete
wait for the
mettere
level
tutti i
to
giochi hentai
reload
che
every time
volete.
you die, and you wait for what is euphemistically called fast travel. And all of that leads to the dream. What if we could have not just an SSD, but a blindingly fast SSD? If we could load 5 gigabytes a second from it, what would change? Now, SSDs are completely different from hard drives. They don't have seeks as such. If you have a 5 gigabyte a second SSD, you can read data from 1,000 different locations in that second, pretty much at speed. As for time to load a gigabyte, this is next gen we're talking about, so memory is bigger. Instead, we should be asking how long to load 2 gigabytes.
Next gen,
And
la
the
memoria è
answer
più
is about
grossa.
a quarter of a second. I mean, that's amazing. We're
L'iPhone
talking
grosso più
2 orders
grosso.
of magnitude,
E ora
meaning
la PS
very
grossa
roughly
più grossa.
100 times faster. Which means at 5 gigabytes a second for the SSD, the potential is
Futuro.
that the game boots in a second.
Questo è il
There are
futuro.
no load screens. The game just fades down while loading a half dozen gigabytes and fades back up again. Same for a reload. You're immediately back in the action after you die. And fast travel becomes so fast it's blink and you miss it. As game creators, we go from trying to distract the player from how long fast travel is taking, like those Spider-Man subway rides, to being so blindingly fast that we might even have to slow that transition down. Pretty cool, right? But for me, this is not the primary reason to change from a hard drive to an SSD. The primary reason for an
Sì, ma
ultra-fast SSD
mi
is
fai
that it
vedere
gives
com'è
the game
fatta sta
designer
scatoletta?
freedom. Or to put that differently, with a hard drive, the 20 seconds that it takes to load a gigabyte can sabotage the game that the developer is trying to create. I think almost all of us in the room have
bellissima la
experienced
forma
this,
della
maybe
PS5.
in different ways. Say we're
È un
making an adventure
castello.
game and we have 2 rich environments where we each want enough textures and models to
E
fill
il
the
loading
memory. Which you
screen
can
di
do as long as you
Xenoverse 2.
have a long staircase or elevator ride or a windy corridor where you can ditch the old assets and then take 30 seconds or so to load the new assets. Having a 30-second elevator ride is a little extreme. More realistically, we'd probably chop the world into a number
Chop
of
the
smaller
world.
pieces and then do some calculations with sight lines and
una
run
roccia.
speeds like we did
Queste
for
rocce
Haven
sono
City when we
rocce.
were making Jack 2. The game is 20 years
Capitela,
old, but
please.
not much has changed since then.
Ma io vedo
All
che
those
lagga.
twisty passages are there for a reason. There's a whole subset of level design dedicated
Queste
to
linee
this sort
stanno
of work,
laggando
but
malamente.
still, it's a giant distraction for a team that just wants to make their game. So when I talked about the dream of an SSD,
A
part
parte
of the
che è
reason for that
finto
5 gigabyte a
quello
second target
schermo.
was to eliminate loads.
È
But
tutto
also
finto, a
part
chi
of the
sta
reason for that
parlando?
target was
È tutta
streaming.
una menzogna.
As in, what if the SSD is so fast that as the player is turning around, it's possible to load textures for everything behind the player in that split second? If you figure that it takes half a second to turn, that's 4 gigabytes of compressed data you can load. That sounds about right for next gen. Anyway, back to the hard drive. Another strategy for increasing effective read speed is to make big sequential chunks of data. For example, we might group all the data together for each city block. That removes most of the seeks, and the streaming gets faster. But there's a downside too, which is that frequently used data is included in many chunks and therefore is on the hard drive many, many times. Marvel's Spider-Man uses this
Dai,
strategy,
queste
and though
rocce
it works
sono
very
rocce.
well for increasing the streaming speed,
È
there's a
enorme.
massive duplication as
È
a
un'altra
result. Some of
citazione
the
dello
objects like
stesso tipo.
mailboxes or news racks are on
L'ho
the hard
fatta
drive
malissimo però.
400 times. What I'm describing here are things that cramp a creative director's style.
Un ragno
Either
cammello.
level design gets a little bit boring in
Ultimo
places,
indizio.
or the data is duplicated so many times that it no longer fits on the Blu-ray disc. And you end up with hard limits on the player's run speed or driving speed. The player can't go faster than the load speed from the hard drive. And finally, I'm sure many of you have noticed that after a patch download, a PlayStation 4 will sometimes take a long time to install the patch. That's because when just part of a file has been changed, the new data can be downloaded pretty quickly. But before the game boots up, a brand new file has to be constructed that includes the changed portion. Otherwise, every change would add a
Is
seek
this
or two.
DNA?
Even so, you can occasionally see this happening on game titles. They start to hitch once they get patched enough. With an SSD, though, no seeks, so no need to make brand new files with the changes incorporated into them, which means no installs as you know them today. There's yet one more benefit, which is that system memory can be used much more efficiently. On PlayStation 4, game data on the hard drive feels very distant and difficult to use. By the time you realize you need a piece of data, it's much too late to go out and load it. So system memory has to contain all of the data that could be used in the next 30 seconds or so of gameplay. That means a lot of the 8 gigabytes of system memory is idle. It's just waiting there to be potentially used. On PlayStation 5, though, the SSD is very close to being like more RAM. Typically, it's fast enough that when you realize you need a piece
Sì,
of data,
16
you
giga.
can just load it from the SSD
Sai che
and
lo
use it.
sapevamo
There's
già.
no need to have lots of data parked in system memory waiting to potentially be used. A different way of saying that is that most of RAM is working on the game's behalf.
Minchia,
This is
allora
one of the
quante
reasons
ventole
that
deve avere
16
la
gigabytes into
PS5
DDR6
80
feels
che
right
tutta la
for
RAM è
PlayStation 5.
usata?
The presence of the SSD reduces the need for a massive intergenerational
Già so che la
increase in
PS4 fa
size.
un
So,
bordello di
back to
rumore.
the dream of the SSD.
Figuriamoci
Here's the
questa.
set of targets. Boot the game in a second. No load screens. Design freedom, meaning
No,
no
Shadow
twisty passages or long
146, non puoi
corridors.
avere
More
due
game on the
numeri
disk
9,
and more
un
game on
numero
the
9
SSD.
grande e un numero
And
6
finally,
con...
those patch installs
cos'è
go
dip?
away.
Non lo so.
The reality, though, is that the SSD is just one piece of the puzzle. There's a lot of places where bottlenecks can occur in
Con
between the
extra
SSD
salsa.
and the game code that uses the data. You can see this on PlayStation 4. If I use an SSD with 10 times the speed of a standard hard drive, I probably see only double the loading speed, if that. For
Sì, ma
PlayStation
magari
5,
ci fai vedere
our
un
goal was
esempio
not
concreto,
just
no?
that the SSD itself be 100 times faster. It was that game loads and streaming
Sì, è
would
fissato
be
con
100
l'SSD.
times faster. So every single potential
Aspetto la,
bottleneck
la
needed to be
PS5
addressed.
Slim.
And there are a lot of them. Let's look at check-in and what happens when its overhead gets 100 times larger. Conceptually, check-in is a pretty simple process. Data is loaded into system memory from the hard drive or SSD. It's examined. A few values are tweaked to check it
Non si
in,
può fare
and then
il
it's moved
check-in
to
dei
its
voli in
final
questo
location.
periodo.
At the SSD
Ok,
speeds we're
scusate la
talking
battuta
about,
di merda.
that last part, moving the data, meaning copying it from one location to another, takes roughly an entire next-gen CPU core. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. If all the overheads get 100 times larger, that will cripple the frame rate as soon as the player moves, and that massive stream of data starts coming off the SSD. So to solve all of that, we built a lot of custom hardware, namely a custom flash controller and a number of custom units in our main chip. The flash controller in the SSD was designed
sta
for
annoiando
smooth and
questo qui.
bottleneck-free operation, but also with games in mind. For example, there are 6 levels
faceva
of
male il
priority
collo.
when reading from the SSD. Priority is very important. You can imagine the player heading into some new location in the world and the game requesting a few gigabytes
Aspetta
of
40
textures.
minuti per
And
vedere
while those
la
textures are being
PS5.
loaded, an
Minchia.
enemy is shot and
Sono
has to
passati
speak
20
a few
minuti,
dying
sta
words.
ancora parlando di
Having multiple
SSD.
priority levels lets the audio for those dying words get loaded.
Ecco
immediately.
come funziona un SSD.
On one side, that flash controller connects to the actual flash dies that supply the storage. To reach our bandwidth target of 5 gigabytes a second, we ended up with a 12-channel interface. 8 channels wouldn't be enough. The resulting bandwidth we have achieved is actually 5.5 gigabytes a second. With a 12-channel interface, the most
Sì, ok, ma
natural
ci
size
gira
that emerges
Crysis.
for an SSD is 825 gigabytes. The key question for us was, is that enough? I mean, it's tempting to add more, but Flash certainly doesn't come cheap, and we have a responsibility to our gaming audience to be cost-effective with regards to what we put in the console. Ultimately, we resolved this question by looking at the play patterns of a broad range of gamers. We examined the specific
Gamers,
games
ho
that
detto
they were
la
playing
parola
over
con
the
la G.
course of a weekend or a week or a month, and whether that set of games would fit properly on the SSD. We were able to establish that the friction caused by reinstalls or redownloads would be quite low, and so we locked in on that 825 gigabyte size, while also preparing multiple strategies so that those who want more storage can add it. I'll go through the details in a moment. Back to the flash controller. On the other side, it connects to our main custom chip via 4 lanes of Gen 4 PCI.
Ma non ho capito se
And
sarà
inside
solo
the main custom chip
SSD
is a
o comunque
pretty
anche
hefty
l'HD
unit
normale,
dedicated to I/O.
l'HDD.
Before we talk about what that does, let's talk compression for a moment.
Ciao Godgeta, non ti sei
PlayStation 4
perso
used
niente,
zlib
ti sei
as
perso una
compression
spiegazione
format.
dettagliata
We
di come
decided to use
funziona
it again
l'SSD.
on PlayStation 5, but on my
Sono passati
2017
20
tour of
minuti
developers,
e
I learned about a new format
questo
called
tizio dalla
Kraken from
capigliatura
Rad Game
discutibile
Tools.
sta ancora
It's like
parlando di
zlib's
SSD.
smarter cousin. Simple, similar types of algorithms, but about 10% better compression, which is pretty big. That means 10% more game on the UHD Blu-ray disc or on the SSD. Kraken had only been out for a year, but it was already becoming a de facto industry standard. Half of the teams I talked to were either using it or getting ready to evaluate it. So we hustled and built a custom decompressor into the I/O unit, one capable of handling over 5 gigabytes of Kraken format input data a second. After decompression, that typically becomes 8 or 9 gigabytes, but the unit itself is capable of outputting as much as 22 gigabytes a second if the data happen to compress
Ho
particularly
letto un
well.
tweet quando
By the
annunciano
way, in
GTA
terms of
7.
performance, that custom decompressor equates to 9 of our Zen 2 cores. That's what it would take to decompress the Kraken stream with a conventional CPU. There's a lot more in the custom I/O unit, including a dedicated DMA
Probabilmente state
controller. The game
sentendo il
can
mio
direct
cane.
exactly where it wants to send the data coming off of the SSD. This equates to another Zen 2 core or 2 in terms of its copy performance. Its primary purpose is to remove check-in as a bottleneck. There's 2 dedicated I/O coprocessors and a large RAM pool. These aren't Zen 2 cores. They're there principally to direct the variety of custom hardware around them. One of the coprocessors is dedicated to SSD I/O. This lets us bypass traditional file I/O and its bottlenecks when reading from the SSD. The other is responsible for memory mapping, which I know doesn't sound like anything related to the SSD, but a lot of developers map and remap memory
Sabaku
as
sta
part of
facendo
file
anche
I/O, and this too can become
la
a
reaction
bottleneck.
dal vivo.
There are
Però voi restate
coherency
qui perché
engines to
sono più
assist the
simpatico io di
coprocessor.
Sabaku.
Coherency comes up a lot in places. Probably the biggest coherency issue is stale data in the GPU caches. Flushing all of the GPU caches whenever the
Oh
SSD
yes,
is read
un'ora di
is
stream.
an unattractive option.
Siamo
It could
arrivati.
really hurt the GPU performance.
Questo ci
we've
dorme con
implemented a
l'SSD.
gentler way of doing things,
Invece di avere
where the
i
coherency engines inform
cuscino
the GPU of the
con
overwritten address ranges
Nami,
and
con
custom
le tette
scrubbers in
enormi,
several dozen
al
GPU
cuscino con
caches would
l'SSD.
pinpoint evictions of just those address ranges. The best thing is, as a game developer, when you read from the SSD, you don't need to know any of this. You don't even need to know that your data is compressed. You just indicate what data you'd like to read from your original uncompressed file and where you'd like to put it, and the whole process of loading it happens invisibly to you and at very
Cioè,
high
ci sono
Back to the Dream.
657.000
Thanks to all
persone
of that surrounding hardware,
a
our
guardare.
5.5 gigabytes a second
Credo
really should
che
translate into something like
neanche
100 times
10.000
faster I/O
interessa
for
il fatto
PS4 and allow
dell'SSD.
the dream of no load screens and super fast streaming to become a reality. Having said that, expandability of our SSD is going to be quite important. Flash is costly, and you may very well want to add storage to whatever we put in the console. Now, the kind of storage you need depends on how you're going to use it. If you have an extensive
vedi.
PlayStation 4 library and you'd like to take advantage of backwards compatibility to play those games on PlayStation 5, then a large external hard drive is ideal. You can leave your games on the hard drive and play them directly from there, thus saving the pricier SSD storage for your PlayStation 5 titles, or you can copy your active PlayStation 4 titles to
Vabbè,
the
è una specie
SSD.
di PC.
If your purpose in adding more storage is to play PlayStation 5 titles, though, ideally you would add to your SSD storage. We will be supporting certain M2 SSDs. These are internal drives that you can
Stanno
get on the open
dormendo
market
quelli
and
davanti,
install
sì.
in a bay in the PlayStation 5. As for which ones
Sono
we support and
finti.
when, I'll get to that in a
No,
moment.
com'è che era? Sono
They connect through
finte.
the custom I/O unit just like our SSD does. So they can take full advantage of the decompression, I/O
Vabbè, io mi
coprocessors,
metto a
and
contare
all
le
the other
X.
features I
1,
was
2,
talking about.
3, 4.
Here's the
Vabbè.
catch, though. That commercial drive has to be at least as fast as ours. Games that rely on the speed of our SSD need to work flawlessly with any M2
Sono a
drive.
posto.
When I gave the Wired interview last year, I said that the PlayStation 5 SSD was faster than anything available on PC. At the time, commercial M2 drives used
Dubito.
PCIe 3.0, and 4 lanes of that cap out at 3.5 gigabytes a second. In other words, no PCIe 3.0 drive can hit the
Guarda come
required spec.
flexano. No, nessun
M2
PC
drives
ha
with
questa
PCIe
velocità.
4.0 are now out in the market. We're getting our samples and seeing 4 or 5 gigabytes a second from them. By year's end, I expect there will be drives that saturate 4.0 and support 7 gigabytes a second. Having
Sono
said that,
manichini.
we are comparing apples and oranges, though, because that commercial M2 drive will have its
Sono
own
dei
architecture,
cartonati.
its own flash controller, and so on. For example, the NVMe specification lays out a priority
Sta
scheme for
sbadigliando, sta
requests that the M2
sbadigliando.
drives can use. And that scheme is pretty nice, but it only has 2 true priority levels.
Questo si è
Our
arreso.
drive supports 6. We can hook up a drive with only 2 priority levels, definitely, but our custom I/O unit has to arbitrate the extra priorities rather than the
Comunque,
M2 drive's
sta
flash
parlando
controller.
un po' come
And so the
Sabacco.
M2 drive needs a little extra speed to take care of issues arising from the different approach. That commercial drive also needs to physically fit inside of the bay we created in PlayStation 5 for M2 drives. Unlike internal hard drives, there's unfortunately no standard for the height of an M2 drive, and some M2 drives have giant heat sinks. In fact,
Oh mio
some
Dio.
of them even have their own fans. Right now, we're getting M2 drive samples and benchmarking them in various ways. When games hit beta as they get ready for the PlayStation 5 launch at year-end, we'll also be doing some compatibility testing to make sure that the architecture of particular M2 drives
Ah,
isn't
ok,
too
quindi
foreign
è
for
una
the
cosa
games to
fisica
handle.
la PS5.
Once we've done that compatibility testing, we should be able to start letting you know which drives will physically fit and which drive samples have benchmarked appropriately high in our testing.
Ok,
It would be
pensavo
great
dicesse
if that
la
happened by
cazzata. No,
launch,
vabbè,
but it's
tipo
likely to be
Stadia.
a bit past it. So please hold off on getting that M2 drive until you hear
Perfino
from
il
us.
coronavirus si
Okay,
sta
back
annoiando.
to our principles. Balancing evolution and revolution is the second of them. This was definitely a recurring theme with the GPU. We need new GPU features and capabilities. If we
Ma
only
non mi
have more
dire.
performance, it's not really a
Sì,
new
vabbè, metti
generation
il
of
ray
console.
tracing.
Of course, many of these capabilities result in more performance. That's part of why a PlayStation 5 teraflop is more powerful than a PlayStation 4 teraflop. But we aren't just looking for the performance. We also need the ability to do something with the GPU that could not have been done before.
Secondo me
And we
Sabacco,
need higher performance
anzi
per watt.
questo qui ha
Every
copiato
time
lo
we double
stile
the
di
performance of some GPU component, we don't
con cui
want to find
parla
out we've
da
doubled the
Sabacco.
power consumed and the heat produced. But at the same time, we have to make sure the GPU can run
Però
PS4
Sabacco è
games,
più sexy.
and we have to ensure that the architecture is easy for the developers to adopt. Now, backwards compatibility was handled masterfully by AMD. They treated it as a key need throughout the design process. As our solution to adding new features without blindsiding developers, we made sure that if there were new significant features, it would be optional to use them. The GPU supports ray tracing, but you
Che
don't have
quindi
to
è
use ray tracing to make your
retrocompatibile,
game.
quanto
The
sembra.
GPU supports primitive shaders, but you can release your first game on PlayStation 5
Requiem.
without making any use of them. Before I get into the capabilities of the GPU,
Ha il
I'd like
fiatone,
to
si
make
sta
clear 2 points
emozionando.
that can be quite
Oh
confusing.
mio Dio. SSD.
First, we have a
SSD.
AMD GPU based on their RDNA 2 technology. What does that mean? AMD is continuously improving and revising their tech. For RDNA 2, their goals were, roughly speaking, to reduce power consumption by re-architecting the GPU to put data close to where it's needed, to optimize the GPU for performance, and to add a new, more advanced feature set. But that feature set is malleable, which is to say that we have our own needs for PlayStation, and that can factor into what the AMD roadmap becomes. So collaboration is born. If we bring concepts to AMD that are felt to be widely useful, then they can be adopted into RDNA 2 and used broadly, including in PC GPUs. If the ideas are sufficiently specific to what we're trying to accomplish, like the GPU cache scrubbers I
Poi
was
quando
talking about,
prenoti la
then they end
PS5
up
ti
being
arriva un
just
SSD
for
nuova.
us. If you see a similar
Beh,
discrete
GameStop
GPU
mi dà una
available as
PS5,
a
certo. È
PC
un
card at
SSD
roughly the same time as we release our
così.
console, that means our collaboration with AMD succeeded in producing technology useful in both worlds. It doesn't
stanno
mean that we as
cascando le
Sony
palle
simply incorporated the
tutti, fra-
PC
a
part
tutti.
into our console.
Pure i
This
manichini qui
continuous
davanti,
improvement
pure a
in
lei,
AMD
che
technology means
sicuramente
it's
non ce le ha,
dangerous to rely on
se le sta
teraflops as an
crescendo e stanno
absolute indicator
cascando.
of performance, and CU count should be avoided as well. In the case of CPUs, we all understand this. The PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 each have 8 CPUs, but we never think that meant the capabilities and performance are equal. It's the same for CUs. For one thing, they've been getting much larger over time. Adding new features means adding lots of transistors. In fact, the transistor count for a PlayStation 5 CU is 62% larger than the transistor count for a PlayStation 4 CU. Second, the PlayStation 5 GPU is backwards compatible with PlayStation 4. What does that mean?
Oh,
One way you can achieve backwards compatibility is to put the previous console's chipset in the new console, like we did with some PlayStation 3s, but that's of course extremely expensive. A better way is to incorporate any differences in the previous console's logic into the new console's custom chips, meaning that even as the technology evolves, the logic and feature set that PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 4 Pro titles rely on is still available in backwards compatibility modes.
nice.
One advantage of this
Nice.
strategy is that once backwards compatibility is in the console, it's in. It's not as if a cost down will remove backwards compatibility like it did on PlayStation 3. Achieving this unification of functionality took years of efforts by AMD, as any roadmap advancement creates a
Ti va un
potential
po' di
divergence
crunker.
in logic. Running
dai.
PS4 and PS4 titles at boosted frequencies has also added complexity. The boost is truly massive this time around, and some game code just can't handle it. Testing has to be done on a title-by-title basis. Results are excellent, though. We recently
Cos'è
took a look
Second?
at
Ha
the top
detto
100
qualcosa? Non ho
PlayStation 4
sentito.
titles as ranked
Questa
by
è la prima
Playtime,
parte
and we're
solo.
expecting almost all of them to be playable at launch on PlayStation 5. With regards to new features, as I said, our strategy was to try to break new ground, but at the same time not to require use of the new GPU capabilities. For more than a decade, GPUs have imposed a restriction on gaming. Software
si
handles
è tipo
vertex
tolto
processing,
la,
but for the most part, dedicated
la
hardware is
sporcizia dagli
responsible
occhi. Sta
for the
dormendo
triangles
questo
and other
qui.
geometry that the vertices form. That means it's not possible to do even basic optimizations, such as aborting processing of a vertex if all geometry that uses it is off-screen. PlayStation 5 has a new unit called the Geometry Engine, which brings handling of triangles and other primitives under
Quello è
full
un
programmatic
cervello, non
control.
è
As a game developer, you're free to ignore its existence and use the
un
PlayStation
engine.
5
Che non mi
GPU
viene
as if it
la
were no more
traduzione in
capable than the
italiano.
PS4 GPU, or you can use this new intelligence in various ways. Simple usage could be performance optimization, such as removing backfaced or off-screen vertices and triangles. More complex usage involves something called primitive shaders, which allow the game to synthesize geometry on the fly as it's being rendered. It's a brand new capability. Using primitive shaders on PlayStation 5 will allow for a broad variety of techniques, including smoothly varying level of detail, addition of procedural detail to
quindi nelle
close-up objects,
PS5 ci
and
metteranno un
improvements to
cervello.
particle effects and other visual special effects.
Cos'è
Another
una
major new feature of our custom
citazione a
RDNA2-based
come si
GPU
chiama?
is ray tracing,
Psycho
using the
a
same
Psycho
strategy
Pass.
as AMD's upcoming PC GPUs.
Ray tracing,
The
l'avevo
CUs
detto.
contain a new specialized
Sì,
unit
vabbè,
called the
l'abbiamo visto
intersection
quando
engine, which can
5 anni
calculate the
fa,
intersection of
sappiamo che
rays
cos'è.
with boxes and
Che
triangles. To
palle,
use the intersection engine, first you build what is called
due
an
cervelli.
acceleration structure. It's data in
Insieme
RAM that
all'SSD,
contains
ovvio.
all of your geometry. There's a specific set of formats you can use. They're variations on the same BVH
Purtroppo niente
concept.
retrocompatibilità,
Then, in your shader
vabbè.
program, you use a new instruction that asks the intersection
Allora, in
engine
realtà
to
io
check
ce l'ho
array
una PS3
against the
che mi ha
BVH.
prestato mio cugino,
While the intersection
usatissima.
engine is processing the requested ray triangle
Quindi,
or ray box intersections,
diciamo
the
che
shaders
ora
are free
potrei
to do
giocare
other work.
PS1,
Having
2,
said
3,
that, the
4
ray
e
tracing
5.
instruction is pretty
Se mi
memory
convince
intensive, so
Sony.
it's a good mix with logic-heavy code. There's of course no need to use ray tracing. PS4 graphics engines will run just fine on PlayStation 5.
Ah,
But
ok.
it presents an opportunity for those interested. I'm thinking it'll take less than 1 million rays a second to have a big impact on audio. That
Cioè,
should be
appena
enough for
detto, sì,
audio
il ray
occlusion
tracing è
and
figo,
some
però
reverb calculations.
non vi
With a bit
preoccupate,
more
non lo
of the
mettiamo
GPU
perché la
invested in ray
PS5
tracing,
comunque è
it should be
bella.
possible to do some very nice global illumination. Having said that, adding ray-traced shadows and reflections to a traditional graphics engine could easily take hundreds of millions of rays a second, and full ray tracing could take
Non lo so,
billions.
non so,
How far
Rick,
can we
per
go?
me è un
I'm
falso.
starting to get quite bullish. I've already seen a PlayStation 5 title that's successfully using ray tracing-based reflections in complex animated scenes with only modest costs.
Oh mio Dio, la PS5
Another
avrà
set of
l'audio.
issues for the GPU involved size and frequency. How big do we make the GPU, and what frequency do we run it at? This is a balancing act. The chip has a cost, and there's a cost for whatever we use to supply that chip with power and to cool it. In general, I like running the GPU at higher frequency. Let me show you why. Here's two
pensavo
possible
facesse vedere
configurations for a
qualcosa,
GPU roughly at the
dai.
level of the PlayStation 4 Pro.
Ah.
This is a thought experiment. Don't take these configurations too seriously. If you just calculate teraflops, you get the same number. But actually, the performance is noticeably different because teraflops is defined as the
Perché Sony non sa
computational
fare le
capability of the vector
presentazioni?
ALU. That's just one part of the GPU. There are a lot of other units. And those other units all run faster when
Mi
the
rimetto a
GPU
giocare a
frequency is
Crash,
higher.
dai.
At 33% higher frequency, rasterization
sta
goes
roba.
33% faster. Processing the command buffer goes that much faster. The L2 and other caches have that much higher bandwidth, and so on. About the only downside is that system memory is 33% further away in terms of cycles.
Attenzione,
But the large number of benefits more than
combattenti
counterbalance
coraggiosi.
that. As a
Avete mai
friend of mine
considerato
says,
di
a
unirvi
rising tide
all'SSD?
lifts all boats. Also, it's easier to fully use 36 CUs in parallel than it is to fully use 48 CUs. When triangles are small, it's much harder to fill all those CUs with useful work. So there's a lot to be said for faster, assuming you can handle the resulting power and heat issues, which frankly, we haven't always done the best job at. Part of the
Così
reason
così mi
for
hai
that
detto a
is,
fare la
historically,
reaction
our
alla
process for
reaction
setting
di
CPU
Sabaku.
and GPU frequencies has
Almeno
relied on some
sarà più
heavy-duty guesswork with
interessante.
regards to how much electrical power games will consume and how much heat will be produced as a result
PS4,
inside of
ma
the
che
console.
perché?
Power
Ci sono
consumption varies a
tante
lot from game
PS4.
to game. When I play God of War on my PS4 Pro, I know the power consumption is high just by the fan noise. But power isn't simply about engine quality. It's about the minutia of what's being displayed and how. It's counterintuitive, but processing dense geometry typically consumes less power than processing simple geometry, which is, I suspect, why Horizon's map screen, with its low triangle count, makes my PS4 Pro heat up so much. Our process on previous consoles has been to try to guess what the maximum power consumption during the entire
Sta
console
cadendo,
lifetime
sta
might
cadendo,
be,
sta
which is to
cedendo.
say, the worst case scene in the worst
Resisti.
case game, and prepare a cooling solution that we think will be quiet at that power level. If we get it right, fan noise is minimal. If we get it wrong, the console will be quite loud for the higher power games, and there's even a chance that it might overheat and shut down
il
if we
suono,
misestimate power too badly. PlayStation 5 is especially challenging because the CPU supports 256-bit native instructions that consume a lot of power. These are great here and there, but
consumano un
presumably only
sacco di
minimally
potenza,
used.
cioè in
Or are
generale
they? If we plan for major
tanti numeri e poi
256-bit instruction
consumano
usage, we
tanta
need to set the
potenza.
CPU clock substantially lower or noticeably increase the size of the power supply and fan. So,
Sorry,
after much discussion, we
pensavo di
decided
aver
to go
mutato
with
il
a very
telefono.
different direction on PlayStation 5. We built a GPU with 36 CUs. Mind you, RDNA2 CUs are large. Each has 62% more transistors than the CUs we were using on PlayStation 4. So, if we compare transistor counts,
Dai,
36
ditemi voi che
RDNA2
gioco
CUs
posso fare
equates to
sul
roughly
browser
58
nel
PlayStation
frattempo.
4 CUs. It
Happy
is a
Wheels l'hanno
fairly
tolto purtroppo.
sizable GPU. Then we went with a variable frequency strategy for PlayStation 5, which is to say we continuously run the GPU and CPU in boost mode. We supply a generous amount of electrical power and then increase the frequency of GPU and CPU until they reach the capabilities of the system's cooling solution. It's a completely different paradigm. Rather than running at constant frequency and letting power vary based on the workload, we run at essentially constant power and
Come
let
se
the
ci
frequency
fosse qualche
vary based
malato.
on the workload. We then tackled the engineering challenge of a cost-effective and high-performance cooling solution designed for that
Il gioco del
specific power
dinosaurio.
level.
Lo
In some
farei,
ways,
solo che
it becomes a simpler problem because there are
devo
no
togliere
more
la
unknowns.
connessione.
There's no need to guess what power consumption the
Sarebbe
worst case game
decisamente
might
molto
have.
più interessante.
As for the details of the cooling solution, we're saving them for our teardown. I think you'll be quite happy with what the engineering team came up with. So, how fast can we run the GPU and CPU with this strategy? The simplest approach would be to look at the actual temperature of the silicon die and throttle the frequency on that
Ma
basis.
facci
But
vedere
that won't
una
work. It
prova.
fails to create a consistent
facci vedere
PlayStation
un
5
esempio.
experience. It wouldn't do to run a console slower simply because it was in a hot room. So rather than look at the actual temperature of the silicon die, we look at the activities that the GPU and CPU are performing and set the frequencies on that basis, which makes everything deterministic and repeatable. While we're at it, we also use AMD's Smart Shift technology and send any unused power from the CPU to the GPU so it can squeeze out a few more pixels. The benefits of this strategy are quite large. Running a GPU at 2 GHz was looking like an unreachable target with the old fixed frequency strategy. With this new paradigm,
Ma
we're able to
probabilmente
run way
le
over
persone
that. In
che
fact,
stanno
we
lì
have
sono
to
finte.
cap the GPU frequency at
Cioè, o meglio,
2.23
quello a
GHz
sinistra
so that
no,
we can
quello è
guarantee
vero.
that the on-chip logic operates properly.
È visivamente rotto
36
di palle
CUs at
potentemente.
2.23 GHz is 10.3 teraflops, and we expect the GPU to spend most of its time at or close to that frequency and performance. Similarly, running the CPU at 3 GHz was causing headaches with the old strategy. But now we can run it as high as 3.5 GHz. In fact, it spends most of its time at that frequency. That doesn't mean all games will be running at 2.23 GHz and 3.5 GHz. When that worst-case game arrives, it will run at a lower clock speed, but not too much lower. To reduce power by 10%, it only takes a couple of percent reduction in frequency, so I'd expect any downclocking to be pretty minor.
Quanta gente sta guardando? Allora, 640.965.
The final of our three principles is about
Tu
finding
immagina
new
tutta la
dreams.
gente
It's
rotta di
important for
palle.
us on the hardware team to find new ways to expand or deepen
Nella chat
gaming, and that's
potete
what led us
vederlo,
to a
sono tutte
focus
Z.
on 3D audio.
GTA
As
6,
players,
vabbè.
we experience the game through the visuals, through audio, and through the feedback we receive from the controller, such as rumble or haptics. Personally, I feel a
Sono
game is
tutte
just
Z.
dead without audio. Visuals are, of course, important, but the impact of audio is huge as well. At the same time, the audio team on a game project has to do a lot with a little.
Guardano, due
For
stanno
example, on
ascoltando
PlayStation 4,
esattamente.
there's fierce competition for the Jaguar CPU cores. Audio typically ends up getting just a fraction of a core.
Vabbè, stavo contando
That's not
le
much of
X.
a computational resource,
Qua
particularly when you
erano
consider that the
4,
visuals
1,
run
2,
at 30 or 60 frames
3,
a second, but
4,
audio processing
5.
needs to happen at almost 200
E
times
sopra
a second.
sono 9, 10.
So,
Vabbè, mo
it's
devo
been tough
contare tutto
going
da
making
capo.
forward progress on audio with PlayStation 4, particularly when PlayStation 3 was such a beast when it came to audio. The SPUs in Cell were almost a perfect device for audio rendering. simple pipelined algorithms could
Sì, ma
really take
l'audio,
advantage of
madonna,
asynchronous
mica la
DMA
devo
and
portare
frequently reached 100% utilization of the floating point unit.
i DJ che
There's
portano
unfortunately nothing
i
comparable
Mac.
on PlayStation 4.
D'ora in poi porteranno le
Probably
PS5
the most dramatic progress in the
nelle
PlayStation 4
discoteche.
generation has been with virtual reality. The PSVR hardware
beast.
has its own audio unit. It supports about
PS3
50 pretty
forward
decent
was a
3D sound
beast.
sources. And this provided a hint
PSVR,
as to where we
vediamo.
could go with audio,
Il
as
PSVR.
well as some valuable experience. Not to oversimplify, but here were our
Pensavo
goals
stesse
for
partendo un
audio on
gioco.
PlayStation 5. The first goal was great audio for everyone, not just VR users or soundbar owners or headphone users. That meant audio had to be part of the console. It couldn't be a peripheral. The second
VR.
goal was to support hundreds of sound sources. We didn't want developers to have to pick and choose what sounds would get 3D effects and which wouldn't. We wanted every sound in the game to have
Si può andare avanti, che
dimensionality.
palle.
And finally, we wanted to really take on the challenges of presence and locality.
Guarda, metto non mi piace
Now,
fin
when we
quando
say
non c'è
presence,
qualcosa che mi
we mean the
interessa.
feeling that you're actually there. You've entered the matrix. It's not, of course, something we thought we could
addirittura.
perfectly achieve, but the idea
Abbiamo
was
fatto
that
la
we
grande
stopped using just
citazione
a
a
rain
Matrix.
sound and instead used lots of 3D audio sources for
Ora
raindrops
sì che è
hitting the
una
ground
console di
and all
tutto
sorts of
rispetto.
locations around you. Then at some point your brain would take a leap and you'd begin to have this feeling of real presence inside the virtual world of the game. This has the capacity to affect your appreciation of the game, just like music in a game does. The concept of locality is simpler. It's just your sense of where the audio is coming from, to the right of you, behind you, above you. This can immerse you further in the game, and it can also directly enhance
Ora la
the gameplay.
PS5 ha integrata una
To use
cassa
Dead
che
Space as an
ha
example,
delle
I
casse che
know, old
attacchi
school.
alla
You're
parete.
fighting enemies in fairly dark, spooky locations. Back in the day, if you played the game using the TV speakers, you could tell that there was one last enemy growling and hunting you down,
Non è
but
un
it was
gioco nuovo,
difficult to
vero?
tell quite where that enemy was. With headphones, you could tell that the enemy was somewhere on the right, which let you deduce, if you couldn't see it, that it must be somewhere behind and to your right. But with 3D audio with good locality, the idea
Ma
is
già lo
you know the
facevano, o
enemy is
no? O
precisely
sbaglio?
there.
Cioè
and
l'audio
you turn
3D.
and you take it out. So,
Non lo
how do we
facevano
know
già.
where a sound is coming from in the first place? Well, all those bumps and folds in the ear have a meaning, evolutionarily speaking. Based on what direction the sound is coming from, sound waves bounce around inside the
Impressionante.
ear, there's some constructive and destructive interference, and the result is a change in volume. The phase of the sound also shifts, depending on what path the sound wave took to reach the ear canal. These volume changes and phase shifts are different for each direction and
Lo
also
facevano
vary
già, e allora di che
depending on the
cacchio
frequency
stanno a
of the sound.
parlare?
Head size and
Ma
head
dai!
shape also impact the sound in a similar fashion. The way that the sound changes based on direction and
miseria.
frequency can be encoded in a table called the head-related transfer function, or HRTF. Here's part of one. The vertical axis is the frequency. The horizontal axis is the direction, front, back, left, right, and the color gives the degree of attenuation of the sound at that frequency. The HRTF is as unique to an individual as a fingerprint is. In fact, you're looking at mine right now. Here's how we measure an HRTF. We've taken hundreds of people through this process. We put a microphone in the subject's left and right ear canals, and then sit the subject down in the middle of an array of 22 speakers. We then play an audio sweep from each speaker as we rotate the
Sì,
subject.
infatti, cioè,
In the
loro
course of
credono che
10
ci
or 20
freghi
minutes, we're able to
qualcosa
sample
più che
the
altro
HRTF
di
at over
come
1,000
hanno misurato
locations.
l'audio.
Using an HRTF when rendering audio creates unparalleled quality, but it's computationally expensive. The simplest way to use an HRTF is to process a sound source to make it appear as if it's coming from one of those 1,000 locations we sample. Unfortunately, the processing has to be done in frequency domain rather than time domain, so there's multiple fast Fourier transforms needed for every sound source for every audio tick. That's a lot of multiplies.
That's a lot of
This
damage.
computational complexity was the determining factor for our strategy. It meant we had to bite the bullet and design and build a
Ci
custom
vibra il
hardware unit
mento.
for 3D audio. Collectively, we're referring to the hardware unit and the proprietary algorithms we run on it as Tempest 3D
No,
Audio Tech.
veramente, non c'è
The meaning
bisogno
of
di...
3D audio and technology should be pretty obvious here.
Oh mio Dio.
As for Tempest, I feel it really reflects our goals with audio.
Oh,
It suggests a
yes.
certain intensity of
Oh,
experience
yes.
and also hints at your presence within it.
Almeno
calling
faccio
the hardware
qualcosa.
unit
Ma voi
that we
vedete?
built the Tempest engine.
Sai che non
It's
vedo,
based on
infatti,
AMD's GPU
troppo.
technology. We modified
Un
a compute
attimo.
unit in such a way as to make it very close to the SPUs in PlayStation 3. Remember when I said that they were ideal for audio? So the Tempest engine has no caches, just like an SPU.
Mi sa che...
All data access is via DMA.
Ah no, ho
just
tagliato
like an
solo questa
SPU.
parte.
Our target
Che
was that it would
palle.
have more power than a
Com'è che si
CPU,
fa?
thanks to the parallelism that a GPU can achieve, and that it would be
No,
more efficient than our
con
GPU,
no.
thanks to the SPU-like architecture.
Con
The goal
Alt.
being
Oh
to make
yes.
possible near 100% utilization of the
Dai, lo
CPU's
metto così.
vector units. Where we ended up is a unit with roughly the same SIMD
Almeno
power and
è più
bandwidth as all 8
intrigante.
Jaguar cores in the PlayStation 4 combined.
Allora,
If we were to use the same algorithms as PSVR, that's enough for something like 5,000 sound sources. But of course, we want to
l'orecchio
use more
quanto è
complex
alto.
algorithms, and we don't need anything like
No,
that number.
sono
of sound.
scarso.
It would have been
Di nuovo.
wonderful if a simpler strategy, such as using Dolby Atmos peripherals, could have achieved our goals, but we
Non
wanted
laggare.
3D audio for all, not just those with licensed soundbars or the like. Also, we wanted many hundreds of
Arriviamo
sound sources, not
a
just the
oltre
32
9000,
that
dai.
Atmos
Così
supports.
faccio il meme
And finally, we
simpatico e
wanted to be able to
divertente. It's
throw
over
an
9000.
overwhelming amount of processing power at the problem.
No.
And it wasn't clear what any peripheral might have
Ecco un po' di
inside of
chat.
it. In fact, with the Tempest engine,
Fai
we've even got
la
enough
Naruto
power
run.
that we can allocate some to the games, to the extent that games want
È
to
tutto
make use
zoomato.
of
Va meglio
convolution
adesso.
reverb
Dovrebbe
and
andare
other
meglio.
algorithms that are either computationally expensive or need high bandwidth. But the primary purpose of the Tempest engine remains 3D audio. Now, 3D audio is a major academic research topic. It's safe to say that no one in the world has all of the answers. And the set of algorithms that has to be invented, tuned, or implemented to realize our vision for 3D audio is immense. For example, use of HRTFs in games is quite complex. Before, I
No,
talked
ma ha
about making the sound
laggato,
source
dai.
appear as if it's coming
Fanculo, quitto.
from one of those 1,000 HRTF sample locations. But for
Sì, sì, lo so che
high-quality
ti abbassi
3D
se
game
clicchi la
audio,
freccina
we
giù.
have to handle
Qui
other
tagliamo.
possibilities. The sound source might not be at one of the
Madonna,
1,000
ancora a
HRTF
parlare
sample
di audio,
locations, so we have to
dai.
blend the HRTF data from
Che
the closest
palle.
locations that we have sampled. The sound source might be moving, which needs very special handling as that blend keeps changing, and that can cause phase artifacts in the resulting audio. Or the sound source might have a size to it, meaning it should feel as if it's coming from an area rather than a single point. There's also whole categories of approaches to be handled. 3D audio can be implemented
Process.
using individual
Sbaglio, ha
processing
detto
of 3D sound
process.
sources. But alternatively,
non
ambisonics
process.
can
Come
be
si
used
dice?
for 3D
Scusa.
audio. Ambisonics speaks
Processare
somewhat
si dice
like the
process.
spherical harmonics used in computer graphics.
Non process.
And finally, there's audio devices.
Process.
The player might be
Process,
using
non
headphones or
process.
TV speakers, or have a higher-end surround sound setup with
Road
6
to
or more
SSD.
speakers, all of which need different approaches. That's a lot of variations.
That's
It's
a
nice to
lot
have
of
the
damage.
computational resources of the Tempest engine, but it's clear that achieving our ultimate goals with 3D audio is going to be a multi-year,
Allora,
step-by-step
se qualcuno
process.
di voi gioca a Smash,
Having said that, headphone
facciamo
audio
quello.
implementation is
Tanto
largely
ormai.
complete at this time. It was a natural place for us to start. With headphones, we control exactly what each ear hears, and therefore the algorithmic development and implementation are more straightforward. For TV speakers
Dai,
and
facciamo
stereo
una
speakers,
stanza.
we're in the process of implementing virtual surround sound. The idea being that if you're sitting in a sweet spot in front of the TV, then the sound can be made to feel as if it's coming from any direction, even behind you. Virtual surround sound has a lot in common with 3D audio on headphones, but it's more complex because the left ear can hear the right speaker and vice versa. We have a basic implementation of virtual surround sound up and running. We're now looking at increasing the size of that sweet spot, which is to say, making
Why
the
must
area
you
you need to be in
just
to
to
feel
suffer?
the 3D effect larger, and we're also working to boost the sense of locality. Headphone audio is the current gold standard for 3D audio on PlayStation 5, but we're going to see what we can do to bring virtual surround sound to a similar level, after which we'll start in on setups with more speakers, such as
Devo
6-channel
passare un po'.
surround sound. It's now to
Okay.
the point where some of the PlayStation 5 games in development are extensively using these systems. One of the game demos allows you to toggle between conventional
Faccio
PlayStation 4
un'arena.
stereo audio and our new 3D audio. I listened with just an ordinary pair of
Allora,
over-the-ear headphones, and wow, I could feel a difference. 3D audio has that dimensional feel to it, Conventional stereo
Password.
audio feels smashed flat by comparison. The improvement
Password
is
è
obvious. So, big advancement, but
1008.
have I entered the matrix? Does my brain believe I'm really there? Like I was talking about earlier when I explained our target of presence. Well, the answer is no, but you've probably caught on to what's missing here, namely whose HRTF was being used. It wasn't mine, it was the default HRTF. The audio team analyzed the hundreds that they measured and chose the one they felt was the closest fit to the total game playing audience. This shows a piece of the default HRTF on the left and my HRTF on the right. You can see that the general features are much the same, but the details are quite different. With the default HRTF, as I said, the 3D audio
Spammo
sounds
anche un
pretty
po'
great.
su Twitter.
When I use my HRTF, though, the audio reaches a higher level of realism, which is to say that when using headphones and my HRTF, I occasionally get fooled and even think a sound is coming from the real world when it's actually coming from the game. A corollary to this is that there are a few people whose HRTFs are sufficiently far from the default HRTF, that's the red dot here, that they can toggle between PS4 style and PS5 style audio and not sense much difference. I've had a few people describe the
Terry.
3D audio as sounding like a
Mi
bit
piace che
better
questo
stereo
stream è
audio.
diventato da
Presumably they're
Crash
the ones
e PS5 a Smash.
which means what HRTF you're using is key. I'd like everyone to be able to experience what I'm experiencing, but obviously it's not possible to measure the HRTF of every PlayStation user. That means HRTF selection
Inciso
is
proprio.
going to be big
Aia.
topics going forward as the Tempest technology matures. At PlayStation 5 launch, we'll be offering a choice of
Bello.
There's a
Mamma mia.
pick the one that gives you the best
Che Falcon Punch.
That's just the first step, though. This is an open-ended research. Maybe you'll be sending us a photo of
Aia.
Pena, and we'll choose a neural network to pick the closest.
No, ma dai.
Maybe you'll be sending us a video of your ears and your head, and we'll make a 3D model.
Madonna, chiamatemi Capitan
Play an
Reed.
augment to tune HRTF. We'll be subtly changing it as you play, and home in on the HRTF that gives you the highest score. Meaning that
Grazie.
This is
Oh.
a journey we'll all be taking
Okay.
together for the next few years. Ultimately, we're committing to enabling everyone to experience that next level of freedom.
No, dopo quel Perry.
Hopefully, I've been able to illustrate a bit about our design and decision-making process today, and why PlayStation 5 has the feature set.
Un attimo, mi sa che
Now comes the fun part. We get to see how the development community takes advantage of that.
mi sa che stanno parlando dei
I'm
giochi.
hoping for the completely honest.
Un attimo.
Audio, ray tracing, the capabilities of the SSD. Or
Dai,
something
finisco
else.
questa.
I guess we'll find out soon. Thank you for your time.
Oh, un attimo, un attimo, un attimo. Forse stanno parlando. Ah, è già finita. Finisce qui. Ma che... Ma va. Ma che stronzata. Ma che stronzata, ma dai. Ma va. Beh, allora faccio questa. Ma è vero che è merdata. Mamma mia, che true combo. No, dovevo girarlo. Ah, quasi. Oh. No. No, mi sono... Ok, sono stato stupido io. Mi sono ucciso prima io. Sono stato stupido. Mamma mia, che merdate di stream. Beh, dai. Comunque, se volete entrare, questa è la lobby. Faccio fino alle 6:15, poi basta. Porterai Eyes of Heaven? No, non ce l'ho la PS4. Che bello questa smash. Ah, per poco. Ho rischiato un sacco. Oh, vabbè, è Cloud. No, perché ha fatto da quella parte il tilt? No. No, come l'ho mancato. Mamma mia, stavo per cadere come uno scemo. No. Quasi ucciso. No, non era un side B, dai, era un up B. Madonna, da lì. Minchia. Leggiamo la chat un po'. PS5 ne varrà la pena? No, e infatti, cambio il titolo. Sì, dai, mi sa che faccio l'ultima e poi basta. Arrivo, ok. Neanche la taunt. Dai. Ce l'ho anch'io un po' di super armatura. Come l'ho preso? No! Da dove l'ho preso? Stava dietro. Ma dai. Ho rischiato un sacco. No. Quasi. Che bel parry. Palle. No. Bello. Mi è piaciuto. Yes. No. No, dovevo girarmi. Aia. Quello ha fatto male. No. Ma no, come? Ma dai. Bello. Cerco di fare il ginocchio potente. Questo qui. Senza cadere però. Ecco qui. SSD ne varrà la pena? No. Dai, basta. Mi dispiace, ma sono un po' stancato, sono rimasto deluso. E grazie per essere passati. E ci vediamo alla prossima, al prossimo video che sarà uno spacchettamento. Perché so che vanno di moda e allora sì, spacchettamento sia. Bye bye.